How much of our film history was because of cocaine?
Oh God, an entire like decade of Saturday Night Live, probably.
Yeah, jeez.
At least, probably at least a decade, maybe 2 decades worth of Saturday Night Live. I feel like something definitely changed around, the early 2000s, probably around 9/11.
But they started cutting it with.
He started cutting it with something else, wasn't it?
Some laxatives. Now y'all just full of shit.
No, it's quite the opposite. They're not full of shit, so they can't like talk shit anymore. No, I was, I'm not really the most into comedy. I'm not. I can sit through a comedy club if that's what the plan is, and most times I enjoy it. But I don't follow comics. I couldn't tell you much of anything. If they've been in a movie, I might assume that they're like a comedic actor and that they make movies.
Mm-hmm.
But rarely do I like go and find out if somebody has a stand-up routine. It's just sometimes stand-up routines are really good, and sometimes it's like, oh God, this is just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And when they're good, it's fantastic. But my experience has been good less than half the time.
Mm-hmm. I think it sucks when people just try to be offensive for the sake of
telling a joke,
or not. Like, there's nothing even funny about it. And I think the shock comedy's starting to go away, but some people would just say like offensive shit to make it be the punchline, or as if that was the punchline, and then some people thought it was funny, so the audiences perpetuated the style of comedy, but it seems to be going away.
Yeah,
I feel like they're the incel type dudes,
Well, I saw this comedy show on Netflix, and it just wasn't very funny, and I was trying to reconcile this. Like, come on, I've got a sense of humor. I can identify funny stuff, and by the end of the routine, it was a plug for some other show and for Ellen DeGeneres, and that's fine. It's cool. Plug Ellen DeGeneres. She's super like potent in the entertainment industry, but I don't remember anything of the stand-up routine. And I feel like when we were kids, we had stand-up. It's like George Carlin.
We had albums that we would buy.
That's true.
Like, still, because it was before we were even born. They would do that, but I remember They're All Gonna Laugh at You.
Yeah.
Fucking.
Does it really? Does it take 20, 30 years for that stuff to make it? I mean, I always thought those guys were like making cultural and political commentary like at the moment, and so some of it was really relevant to the moment, and some of it was a broader perspective. Like George Carlin always seemed like he was making a broad commentary, but Dennis Leary always seemed like he was making really specific commentary. And what was the Dennis Miller always felt like he was making really specific commentary.
Dennis Miller was like pretentious comedy.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
And so it's like, and even Chappelle was making really on point, like now focused in the moment commentary. And so, but what I hear now, it's like complaining about current events, but not really making commentary.
Yeah.
And I don't understand what happened to comedy. It's like we were robbed of a generation of comedians, because now I hear people reciting George Carlin for their routines.
Well, I mean, I think comedy kind of like...
comedy's hard.
Well, it fucked itself over when everybody tried to have a podcast. Too many comedians, like, have podcasts now, so we know, like, if you're a comedian, I don't want to know your fucking views that are serious. I just don't. I just want to know shit that's funny, like Cat Williams or Joe Rogan or fucking Joey Diaz or Eddie Griffin. I don't want to hear your political views. I just want to hear jokes that are funny. If they're political jokes that happen to be funny, okay, that's fine.
It's interesting you mentioned that. Like, you were bringing it up like that. It's like I saw it was like a video of Kevin Hart explaining the entertainment industry, and at one point he seemed like he was getting kind of frustrated because it was like what he was explaining wasn't being fully understood, and then he tried to frame it in terms of Cat Williams, and it was like, this is really surreal. I don't know anything about any of this. I know that Kevin Hart's a funny guy. I'm pretty sure that Cat Williams is a funny guy. I don't understand why is it reminded me of like 90s rapper beef.
That's funny you said. I was just about to say, what happened was beef was hot in 2018, and people didn't realize it was like being abused formulaically.
Oh, beef was back on the menu.
Beef was served up. Beef was getting served up. Stroganoff, fucking ribs.
Beef was on the menu.
I mean, but podcasts were beefing with each other. You had like Dana White beefing with Brendan Shaw beefing with fucking other people's podcasts. There was like Drake and Pusha T, that was the infamous one.
Who does Drake have to have beef with?
Whoever beefs with Drake instantly gets a bump. Oh, Eminem, whatever the dude's name. Mr. Beef with Eminem to get some fucking clout.
Pipe Wrench Stanley.
Oh man. But yeah, beef was commodified in a way that was just like disgusting, and people, I don't know if people didn't realize it or not, but it just became, everybody had a beef. Fucking Rosie O'Donnell, Donald Trump beefing.
What?
I mean, their beef's been going for a long time, but I'm just saying, like,
I can imagine that it's probably because they were at some function in New York, and he said something, and she like probably didn't have it, and made him look like a windbag or something like that. So now he's got some thorn in his thigh.
It's like a long, but that's what I mean. Like, their beef is so long standing and so ridiculous that to me now everything feels like that. Where it's like, why would anybody care about Rosie O'Donnell and Donald Trump yelling? Like, if Rosie O'Donnell and Donald Trump were yelling at each other in the park, would you drive down there to see it? Like, if you didn't know who they were, you know what I mean? If they were just two random people yelling at each other in the park, would you just drive like, oh, I'm gonna sit here for 2 hours? But that's the equivalent of what people are doing via Twitter and social media when we're watching people beef. We're like, it's like watching fucking people yell at each other at the park.
So we're watching a fat man in an overcoat yelling at some suburban mom-looking lady, like in public,
in a parking lot. Basically,
this is America.
This is America. Because if that shit happens, you turn your head. You usually like, oh, interesting, and keep on. But people, like, if it's famous people, we'll sit there and park and watch that fucking fight go on, and then start messaging each other. Did you see that shit? Did you see that? Oh my god, it was like, I don't. It's crazy to me how much second and third hand information can come from bullshit beef. Like, we could, like, if we wanted to.
I think I remember reading about Oprah being denied service at a Swiss boutique because the attendant, the concierge, didn't know who she was.
That's amazing.
And they assumed that she couldn't afford their wares.
We should spend a half an hour saying, fuck this concierge.
I feel like I learned about it on Twitter, and then it appeared on like Daily Mail and BuzzFeed or something like that. You know, it spreads, but I feel like it appeared on Twitter first. Like, Oprah just got denied service at this boutique. It's like this is the most publicity this boutique has ever had on the internet. It's otherwise been like, you know, word of mouth type stuff. Oprah, of course, is like, you know, the most wealthy woman in the planet, in the history of women on the planet.
I mean, because then, okay, think about this. Think about this for a second. What if that story was purchased by that restaurant or buy that boutique as advertisement, because then they're like, this is the new advertising thing. We say someone got denied at your place and didn't come in, because then if they didn't actually come in, then the story is true. Like, by saying Oprah never came to your boutique, that's a true story. So framing it as if Oprah was planning to come and then, well, for whatever reason isn't coming, you can say a bunch of shit about this boutique and pay for this to be in a bunch of these newspapers, run it as if Oprah is associated with the story, and then by the time she finds out,
there were no pictures.
No pictures, of course not, because she didn't go.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm like, all these stories, like, a lot of times it sounds as if there's a new form of marketing that's happening, and
of course they're going to capitalize on this, because
absolutely,
Oprah has legions of devoted followers who are, they're just waiting for someone to defy their leader.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, because then you create, this is what's so crazy about it. If you create sentiment against you, then because of the way Americans are just contrarian, there's going to be a group that becomes counter those people who are against you by proxy for you.
Yeah, you'll be like, what? That's not right. Well, I'm against that.
And it's the weirdest. You're almost better off starting that way, because then you can control the negative.
Yeah.
Side.
Well, that's all just a variation of manufacturing consent, and that's what our government really excels at. They capitalize on their own propaganda dissemination methods, and the people's desire to be informed is almost it's almost like a handicap, because we know that we all want information. We want to know what's going on so that we can be part of the dialogue, but we can't really even control sources of information or count on information to be credible anymore, because BuzzFeed just published some stuff that was categorically not really denied, but described as inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, thanks for being vague, Mueller investigation. Inaccurate doesn't mean like they're telling us a lie. It just means they're not telling us a complete variation of whatever's going on.
Or people shouldn't be going to BuzzFeed looking for accurate information.
Well, that too, of course.
I think that's the root of the problem. People,
they're willing to get anything from anywhere because we want information.
Yeah.
We want it so bad.
We want the information on our Facebook and Twitter feeds to be accurate so bad that we will allow ourselves to believe it and then perpetuate it before we will fact check it.
Yep, because you just got to say it, 4 times before it becomes factual.